It was the summer after my freshman year of college. I had just gotten back home, and like most 19-year-olds, I was restless. A couple of my friends from high school had the same idea. We wanted to make the most out of the break before life pulled us all in different directions. My buddy Zach told us about this summer house his uncle owned up by the lake, about 45 minutes outside of town. Supposedly, it hadn't been used in years, and his uncle was fine with us staying there for a weekend as long as we treated it with respect. That sounded perfect. Cheap, private, and away from parents. So one Friday evening in June, 4 of us packed into Zach's beat-up sedan with food, drinks, and a couple of sleeping bags. The sun was setting when we pulled into the long dirt driveway. The house itself looked older than I expected. The paint was peeling, the wood siding was warped from years of rain and sun. It looked more like a forgotten hunting cabin than a summer home. Still, we were excited. The first weird thing happened before we even went inside. As we carried our stuff up the porch, I noticed the front door was unlocked. Zach said his uncle must have left it that way for us, but something about the door just hanging open felt wrong. The place smelled stale, like it hadn't been lived in for a decade. The living room had dust on everything, the kind of thick layer you only see in abandoned houses. There was old furniture covered with sheets, and in the kitchen, all the drawers were empty except for one, where a single butter knife lay in the middle. We laughed it off, chalking it up to the creepy summer cabin vibe. That night we sat out back near the lake, roasting hot dogs on a cheap little grill. It was perfect. Warm weather, crickets chirping, stars over the water. But around midnight, things shifted. The first sign was a splash in the lake. It wasn't a fish. It was heavy, like a person jumping in. We all froze, staring at the black water. Then we saw ripples spreading out toward the middle. Probably a deer or something, Zach said quickly, though I could tell he didn't believe it. We decided to head inside, but when we got to the front porch, we saw it. The door, the one we left closed earlier, was standing wide open again. We hadn't been drinking enough to forget locking it. I remembered turning the knob myself. That was the first moment I thought maybe someone else was here. We checked the house, every room, every corner. Nobody. Still, none of us slept much that night. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of creaking floorboards. At first, I thought it was one of my friends, but when I peeked out from my sleeping bag, everyone was out cold. The sound wasn't random either. It was steady, slow steps, moving across the living room. I held my breath, convinced someone was in there with us. But just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. By morning, I told myself I had to be imagining things. The next day, we tried to shake it off. We swam, grilled more food, even joked about the cabin ghost. But as the sun went down, none of us were laughing anymore, because that night, things got worse. At some point after midnight, Zach shook me awake. His face was pale. He whispered, "Listen." From outside the window came the sound of humming, a low, steady tune. It wasn't any of us, and it was too close to be from another house. The nearest neighbor was miles away. We crept to the window and peered out. At first, I didn't see anything, just the trees swaying in the breeze. But then, something moved near the tree line. A figure, standing completely still. It looked like a man, tall, thin, but I couldn't make out his face. He was just watching. The humming stopped, then he turned, walking slowly back into the woods. None of us slept after that. When the sun came up, Zach wanted to leave, but his car wouldn't start. Dead battery. It had worked fine the day before. We spent that entire day on edge, waiting for dark again. By the time night fell, every little noise outside made us jump. But the worst part, the part I'll never forget, happened at around 2 a.m. I woke up to my phone buzzing. I looked at the screen and felt my blood run cold. It was a text message from my own number. It said, "Why did you come back?" I sat there frozen. My hands were shaking so badly, I nearly dropped the phone. I showed the others, and we all just stared at each other. Nobody said a word. We packed up what little we had, grabbed our bags, and started walking the dirt road in the dark. We didn't even care about the car anymore. After what felt like hours, we finally flagged down a pickup truck. The driver was an older man who asked where we were coming from. When we told him, he gave us this long look, then said quietly, "You kids shouldn't have gone up there. Nobody's lived in that place since the summer of '92. Family owned it, left after their son drowned in that lake." Folks say he never really left. We didn't ask any more questions. The next day, Zach's uncle swore he never gave us permission to stay there. He said he hadn't set foot on that property in years. To this day, I can't explain the humming, the figure in the woods, or the text message from my own number. But every summer, when the nights get warm and the air smells like pine and lake water, I think back to that weekend and I remind myself some houses stay empty for a reason.